Evening, everybody, here from Napa Valley. We're in wine country for race number 16 of the Soda Guys Cup Series, here today at the winding road course known as Sonoma. I'm Seth Cole, being joined alongside Michael Norman. And Michael, it's their first road course stop of the season, and what a challenging road course it is.
Oh, yes, absolutely. You see, Sonoma is probably one of the most challenging road courses just in terms of elevation changes compared to the likes of, say, like Canadian Tire or even Watkins Glen. It's, going off, I believe it's what's known as turn 3A, just that very, very uphill turn. You can't even see where you're pointed when you go off that turn. So you just got to pray that you're going to stay on the racetrack whenever you come over that hill.
Now, of course, for fans that may have watched NASCAR back from maybe the late 2000s up till a couple of years ago, they're used to the configuration of Sonoma where we end up having the turn 4 be a straightaway over to turn 7. But here today, we are running what is known as the IndyCar course, if you will, where these drivers will be in the infield going through 5, 6, and 6A. Those three added challenging corners, do you think that that's going to be something that even these drivers here today are going to have to get used to, maybe being used to running the, and I put this in quotes now, old configuration of Sonoma?
Yeah, it's going to be a real challenge. The carousel turn itself is going to be really hard because you got a downhill sweeping left-hander, I believe, and just one little bobble or mistake, and that could cost you a spot if there's somebody right on your bumper.
Hayden Rush, in only his 4th start of the season, is your pole sitter here tonight, alongside of the 96 of Ty McWhirter, who will remember last week at the Michigan International Speedway took his first checkered flag of the season in a thrilling finish, and he's going to be starting on the outside of row 1. Row 2 is where we're going to find Joseph Piscata and Zach York. I believe both of them are also looking for their first career win. So we got a lot of drivers up here that haven't been to victory lane yet this season that are getting good starting track position. And it seems like whenever we go to a road course, that's exactly what you want to have.
Yeah, starting up front is always best because that's less traffic you have to go through. And so that way all you got to focus on is just hitting your marks and staying on the racetrack. Hayden Rush on the pole today, as you said. I'm looking down here, and he's 21st in points right now in that 00 car, so a good finish for him today should really help try to boost him up in the point standings. Our point leader starting in the 5th position today, so seems like another good starting spot for him, but we'll see if he can finish top 5.
Taylor Butcher Benjamin, one of 2 drivers that has finished in the top 10 times in the first 15 races. The other one is Chad Gunisman, 2nd in the points. So just proving here, as we are about midway through the regular season, consistency is key in keeping yourself up there in the points. But I kind of get a feeling here today. I was watching these guys in practice, and there were a couple of drivers that jumped up there to the top of the board, but really even those drivers were struggling today. I kind of have a feeling today's winner is going to be all about execution and maybe even pit strategy, as it's going to be 55 laps of racing. And you know this, Michael, that an incident on the track at a road course isn't necessarily going to bring out a full course yellow.
Yeah, and it's going to take something along the lines of the track being completely blocked in order for that to bring out a caution. So these laps should tick by pretty quickly, and we're going to have to see who's going to come out of it with pit strategy. And like we said, they're going through this carousel here. That's a downhill left turn, and one little slip, as we saw in real NASCAR, say, if I want to throw back to, I think it was 1995 or 96, one of those two, when actually it was Mark Martin slipped up and let Dale Earnhardt go underneath him, and Dale Earnhardt went on to win. So like we said, it's gonna take just one little slip, and you could lose a lot of spots in that corner.
See right here, this would be normal turn 7. Heading down into the downhill S's that drivers would take if we were running the old configuration. I had to chuckle too when I was watching qualifying. Only 5 drivers elected to take time. There are 19 drivers that are, 17 drivers that are scheduled to take today's green flag. So 12 drivers kind of let the game decide where they were going to be starting in the field.
Yep, and that's not always a bad thing. If you're not quite comfortable, excuse me. If you're not quite comfortable with where you're going to be at, or not, just not quite comfortable being around too many others, start in the back, kind of hang back, just get a feel for the car and just see if you can get a handle on the track, and then try to make a run later on.
4 drivers coming into today's race are locked into the playoffs through trips to victory lane. Will we have a 5th one here today as Caden Rush and Ty McWhirter, Chevrolet and Toyota bring us down? Green flag is in the air. We're racing at Sonoma.
Very early call for a green flag too, but boy, there they go, straight up the hill, right into turn 1, up to turn 2.
Of course, probably we can safely say, unless we do end up having an incident that brings out a yellow flag, this is the closest these drivers are going to be all day to each other, so we may see some of the most aggressive racing here in the first couple of laps.
Oh, absolutely. As you saw, the front 2 just already right up nose to tail, heading off into this turn, which is turn 4, and I believe 4A right here.
Rush, McWhirter, Piscata, Zach York, and Vincent Arthur, who is fastest in practice today, is now in the 5th position, dropping Taylor Butcher Benjamin back to 6th. A couple of drivers did not take the green. They are on the grid, but they did not take the green. The 43 of Alex Link and the 1 of Rocky Boyd. So we'll wait to see if they choose to come back out, or if they choose to come out on the track and actually turn some laps. I believe a couple of drivers also may have started from pit road, the 47 of Oscar Jensen and the 20 of Chris Hansen.
I remember seeing Rocky being disqualified in qualifying. I'm not sure if that has anything to do with it.
We'll have to try and follow up on that as Caden Rush is pulled away. Right now, the best battle is going on for that 4th position. Zach York in the 19 sees the Hertz Chevrolet of Vincent Arthur. Looks like those two are going to take this into a drag race here, into the braking zone of turn 11, and Arthur easily going to make the pass. There's not a whole lot of passing zones here at Sonoma, but turn 11 is certainly one of them.
Yeah. It's all going to come down to out-braking, but you don't want to lock your tires up because that's going to cook the tire big time, and that's another factor about tonight too, is tire wear. With the added carousel portion of the racetrack, it's going to include a lot of tire heat because that's a long sweeping turn, so you're kind of not fully on the gas, but you're roughly, I want to say, a quarter to half throttling. So you slide your tires too much or you get on the gas too early, that's going to cause a lot of tire wear, and you're going to find yourself off in the dirt in no time.
No, it's interesting you bring that up because really when drivers set up for Sonoma when we're running the old configuration, it's mostly comprised, if you think about it, with maybe a couple of exceptions there in the first corner and the S's, it's a lot of right-handers. And so with throwing in this carousel here for these drivers, that's 2 left-handers they're having to set their car up for as well.
Yeah, it's just, and that's the tough part, you know, there's a lot of people that talk about, oh, I can get my car handled for the left turns, but when it comes to the right turns, it's just terrible, and then vice versa. So you really got to wheel your car, and a lot of these drivers are going to be very, very sore and probably tired after today's race.
You can hear at the battle between Tom Drayling and Justin Carey, the 42 and the 21, as Carey loses a little bit of ground there through the S's. So Drayling, who comes into this race 10th in the points, currently holding down that 8th position. Up ahead of them, though, battle between the top 2 in points. Taylor Butcher Benjamin, the points leader. 2nd in the standings, Chad Gudisman. The 2 of them mixing it up for 6th.
Yeah. They're trying to get every little spot they can now, but also at the same time, trying not to use up too much of their stuff.
How do you do that? I mean, we're here in California. Obviously, you know, the sun has been beaten down on this track here today. You can clearly tell that the sun beats down on this track every day by the way that there's no green grass surrounding this track. It's literally dried grass and dust. And it's 82 degrees out here with a 38% humidity. It's going to make the track slick. So how do you balance conservative and aggressive?
Yeah, and that's a very, very tough situation too, because it's, you know, you got to feel the car. So you can try to push it as much as you can if you feel like you have a good grip on your car in the racetrack. But like I said, all it takes is one slip, and bam, your race is done, or you're off into the dust and probably into a hill, more than likely. So it's a very, very fine line between conservative and aggressive.
We just had a problem for Caden Rush. I don't know what happened, and we'll try and see if we can go back and find out, but he was the pole sitter and race leader up to this point. He may have overdriven a corner. Ty McWhirter's gotten by him for the lead. Piscata has moved up to 2nd.
He looped it. He looped it in the. I think he had a wheel spin. He went off into the turn, and he looped it, just about in turn 7. Like I said, one little mistake, that's all it takes.
And again, as pointed out, the fact that there's usually at road courses no caution that's going to save you, so it's going to be very difficult when you make a mistake to bounce back from that.
Yeah, and like I said, and that's another thing too that we failed to touch on too is wheel spin or wheel hop. Sorry, wheel hopping is where you shift down and you're not quite RPM matched, so your tires start chattering, and which in that case usually leads to the spin. So luckily the 00 didn't lose too many spots, and he's still kind of right up there, but we'll have to see what kind of effect that's going to have on his tires.
Yeah, he's now going back to work, trying to work his way back up to the race lead, looking for second place here through the carousel of turns 6 and 6A on Joseph Piscota. Behind them, Vincent Arthur made his way around Zach York, but hasn't exactly driven away from that 19 machine. So you've got a couple of Chevrolets up here battling for third, or make that second, and then you got a Chevy and a Toyota battling currently for the fourth position. But those 5 have really gapped themselves all the way back to 6th place Chad Gunesman, 7th place Taylor Butcher and Benjamin, Justin Carey, Tom Drayling back here. Then you drop even further back, and that's where you kind of find the remainder of the field, a battle here between James Love and Oscar Jensen, the 88 and the 47.
Very tough battles throughout the racetrack.
It looks like Alex Link and Rocky Boyd neither have gotten on track yet, and also an early departure for the 32 of Larry Reed, who came into this race 24th in the points, was making his 4th start of the season here this evening. I'm also looking back here. We've got the 77, which is being driven by Greg Newsom. Newsom is a driver over in the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series, driving for RSS Racing over there. He's doing the fill-in duties once again this week for Spire Motorsports, filling in for Ryan Strunk. Strunk came into this race 3rd in the point standings, and I can only assume that when you have a driver fill in, you don't get the full driver points. So right now, Ryan Strunk, be interesting to see, depending on what Greg Newsom's able to do here today, where that 77 ends up in points when we get to next week's race, which is going to be at the Chicagoland Speedway.
Oh, we have an incident up ahead. The 47 was off track.
Oscar Jensen out of JTG Daughtery Racing. So he was battling with James Love for the 10th position, and this drops him way back from the 88 machine. Still currently runs in 11th place.
Ooh, and he got into the tire barriers just a little bit. From what it looked like, he just got into turns 1 and 2 really hot, tried to get on the brakes, and the car just snapped around on him.
Well, we looked away to look through the field. Caden Rush was running 3rd at the time. We look back. He's already worked his way back to the lead, but the question I'd have to ask is how much of his tires did he use up in his charge back to the front?
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess we'll have to wait and find out.
Apparently, the caution cones are not safe on the entrance to pit road. Both Caden Rush and Ty McWhorter sending some of those sailing into the pit road entrance as Caden Rush puts lap 6 onto the board. We've got 50 laps to go here at Sonoma. Now, I was going to cast a memory back here before Caden Rush had his incident. The first road course stop that the Rapid Fire Pizza Grand National Series had was at Mid-Ohio, and we saw drivers basically try and split the race in half. They ran, I believe it was 57 laps in that event. So are we going to see the Cup drivers here today do the same thing, maybe try and bring their cars to pit road somewhere around laps 27, 28?
Yep. Well, I mean, it's very possible because, like you said, you know, old Larry Mack say you want to run a road course backwards. You know, you want to calculate from where you finished to how many laps you got. You know, say it's I'm not sure exactly what the fuel strategy or the fuel mileage is here. If you said it, I didn't quite catch it. But so it's very possible that we could see some of these drivers pit pretty early and then either try to 1-stop or 2-stop it after that.
Yeah, we're not 100% certain what the fuel window is for the drivers. We do know, though, based off of the Mid-Ohio race, this track, I think, is a little shorter than Mid-Ohio, so we know based on length that they should be able to go at least to halfway. It would be a question, though, to your point, if it's maybe a little bit further that they can make it if they come to pit road as soon as that fuel window opens to make it the rest of the way, or if they stretch it as far as the fuel tank will allow them. As Ty McWhirter still runs in that second position. I mean, a lot of momentum for Ty McWhirter after he was only making his second start of the season and goes to victory lane at Michigan in what was a absolutely insane finish between himself, Boyd Hogan, and Vincent Arthur. I mean, they were 3 wide down the back straightaway on that final lap. So with that kind of momentum, does it kind of surprise you to see a driver that did that well at a speedway now being able to follow it up at a road course?
Yeah, road course racing is, I don't want to say an art, but it's definitely a talent, because not everybody can just hop in a race car and just drive on a road course. So these drivers are getting it done here today, and I believe this is an open setup, right? So everyone in here has their own individual setup.
Yes, you are correct.
And Caden Rush had the quiet setup. If you look at it, he ran in qualifying a 1 minute 36.542. In second place, who qualified second, had a 1 minute 38.310. That's over 1.6 seconds faster. So Caden Rush came to play today. He obviously, I would have to assume, would be a pretty good road course racer for him to be out there. And even that little mishap, kind of like a Jeff Gordon situation, a little mishap, he got himself right back in the lead. Let's see if he can keep it.
Saw right there the trouble that Justin Carey in the 21 had going through the S's. The whole hood has gone off that car, and he almost looped it around again going into turn 4 as he lets the 47 of Oscar Jensen go around. So drop Carey back to that 11th position. A lot of times when we go to the very aerodynamic tracks, the 1.5 miles, the 2 mile speedways, and of course the super speedways, any little bit of damage that you get, you're going to feel the effects of that. Do you feel the effects of damage here at a road course?
Not as much as you would think. I mean, you're going too slow for it to really have an effect, because, draft doesn't really come into play here. So, I mean, yeah, if you have damage, you'll probably see it and maybe feel it a little bit in the car handling, but I don't think it should affect you speed-wise, unless it's really heavy damage.
Well, Justin Carey for Wood Brothers Racing comes into this event 6th in the overall point standings and currently 10th in the playoff scenario. I also noticed he's the one that had that trouble over in the S's. Looking down around the cut line right now as far as the projected playoff points are concerned, only 2 drivers or 3 drivers I can see that could really make a charge right now would be Vincent Arthur in the 24, Joseph Piscota in the 9, and Caden Rush, our current race leader. However, all 3 of them come into this race still about 40 to 45 points behind the cut line. So no doubt they're going to make good strides points-wise today if they finish where they're running, but they still got a couple more races to go before they get themselves into playoff contention points-wise.
Now, cutoff line, are you talking like the chase cutoff line or the cutoff for... Okay, so even if Caden Rush were to win today, that wouldn't lock him in?
Well, that's a good question. I'm not really certain. I don't know if there's a limited number of starts these drivers have to make or not, because Caden Rush here today is only making career start number 4, and this is the 16th race of the season. So he'll at this point have only made 25% of the races run this season. Now, there's no doubt in my mind if he continues to run the remainder of the regular season, he would probably meet the required minimum number of starts if he wins to count towards a playoff spot. But I just don't know if we've gotten to that point yet.
Right.
Another driver has gone to the garage area. That is the 47 of Oscar Jensen. So he will finish the day out in 13th place. Justin Carey, who we saw have trouble, he's been able to work his way back at least to the 10th position. And right now, the car that is on the move picking up spots is that 24 of Vincent Arthur. He just got around his Hendrick Motorsports teammate Joseph Piscota just a moment ago for 3rd place. Piscota now under fire from Zach York, but right now in terms of lap times, Vincent Arthur is running almost the same identical lap times as Caden Rush when he's not dealing with traffic.
Yeah, traffic is the worst part here, because traffic can cause you to miss your braking point or miss your marks, and just you'll end up in the dirt in no time, especially if they're holding you up a little bit. So getting through traffic as quickly as possible would be the best bet.
You know this as well as I do. The dirt that's here, it's not like your sand traps that you have at other tracks. It is dried grass. There's no grip. If you mess up and you slide through that grass, it's not going to slow you down. And all around this track, there are tire barriers waiting for you. And you and I both know, usually, if you hit a wall, you can continue. If you hit a tire barrier, you're basically done.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the worst part, because just the tire barrier alone will destroy a lot of your car. It's supposed to be safer, but it really, really destroys your car for you. It absorbs a lot of that impact.
Take an onboard here, and Vincent Arthur is going to give us a look around the Sonoma Raceway here. As stated, if we were running the old configuration, you see right here, they would continue going straight and then take that right-hander, which would lead them down to turn 7. Instead, though, the right hand into turn 5, down here into the left-hand turn 6 and 6A before eventually getting over to turn 7. So in normal NASCAR, when they ran the old configuration, they still called turn 11, that paperclip final corner, turn 11, but in all reality, the track really only had 9 corners.
Yeah. It shows how much they've reconfigured this course over the years.
Right here would have been turn 7, where that straightaway from 4 would have led down to, and then, of course, the very familiar S's leading down towards that turn 11 right-hander. There were not that many drivers that took the green flag, and currently we only have 12 of the drivers that started this race still running, all 12 on the lead lap. And as soon as I say that, looks like the 20 of Chris Hansen is now on pit road. So he has now fallen a lap down to the leaders. I'm not certain if this is a regularly scheduled pit stop for the 20 car or not. There you see him there on the left side.
It could very well be. You know, it's just if he's short pitting, this could be strategy for that 20 car.
Chris Hansen coming into this race 12th in the overall standings. This has kind of been his strategy, it seems, every time that we see him here in the Cup Series, kind of riding in the first half of the race and then making a charge late. And that's translated to him, at least for now, sitting in a playoff spot. Right now, 14th of the 16 playoff drivers, 121 points ahead of the cut line. As Caden Rush continues to show the way in the 0-0, he has opened up his gap now to almost 6.5 seconds, back to Ty McWhirter. McWhirter enjoying a almost 6 second gap from himself back to Vincent Arthur. And we brought up the subject of possible short pitting. I don't know. Is 5-6 seconds able to be made up with fresh tires as opposed to old? As whoa, Zach York overdrives the corner there, trying to make a move in turn 7 on Piscota for 4th.
I mean, it really can, because with fresher tires, you can drive these corners a lot harder than somebody could with old tires. So I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's plausible that it could very well happen if they work and drive hard enough.
Joseph Piscota looking for his second top 5 of the season, and what is only his 4th start this year. And Zach York back on his bumper again. These two have been duking it out the last couple of laps for that 4th position. Zach York looks like he might be just a little bit better at attacking the corners, but then Piscota, who's conservative entering into the heavy braking zones, is able to get back to the throttle sooner and then drive away on exit.
Yeah.
Another battle that might be brewing further back is again between the top 2 in points, Taylor Butcher Benjamin and Chad Gunisman. And people might be wondering, why is the field so spread out right now? Well, obviously, you've got those drivers that always circle the road courses on their calendar to go out there and win. There are other drivers that circle the race on their calendar as just go out there and survive. As whoa, Taylor Butcher Benjamin getting a little loose there heading into turn 1. And I kind of get the feeling right now that maybe the top 5 are the drivers that circled this race as a chance to win. Everybody from 6th on back, they're just out there running their own race, just making sure they keep the car on the racing surface.
And sometimes that's all it takes, to be consistent and have a good points day. Just run your own race and just try to keep it on the racetrack. That's what your crew chief would be telling you throughout the whole race, reminding you, keep it on the racetrack, keep it on the racetrack. Don't forget to keep it on the racetrack.
Because you and I know this from experience. If you focus more on the driver you're battling rather than on what you're doing, more than likely you're going to be the one making a mistake.
Absolutely. I mean, look at Robbie Gordon back in 2001. He let a lap car, I believe the lap car Kevin Harvick, mess with him, and he ended up losing that race to Tony Stewart.
Last week, we had the single-car team of Gaunt Brothers Racing go to victory lane with Ty McWhirter. We may be having back-to-back races where a single-car and kind of underfunded team in Starcom Racing go to victory lane if Caden Rush can close the deal. If he can make his way to, I believe, lap 29, he will have locked up the most laps led bonus point. He's already started from the pole here today, had to work his way back up after a spin, but then fell back to third, worked back up to the lead, and now almost a 10-second gap between himself and Ty McWhirter. Now, if you're Caden Rush, and you've already got a strategy coming into this race of when you are going to come to pit road, even if guys like McWhirter and Vincent Arthur try to jump the gun and short pit him, I almost think that with 10 seconds to work with, you can still continue with your game plan and still not get hurt by it.
Yeah, it's very true. Just what you want to do, unless a caution comes out, is just stick to your strategy. If it happens, it happens. You got 10 seconds. You're obviously the fastest car on the racetrack. So just whatever happens, happens. Stick to your own strategy.
You saw right there, the 9 and the 19 still battling for fourth place coming through turns 6 and 6A. And just how the track is bumpy. You could see that the splitters were bouncing up and down and up and down. I mean, how does that affect a driver? You talked about wheel hop. I mean, that's got to make it very difficult to be able to get the car to slow down when you get on the brakes.
Yeah, it's more difficult than you think because you don't want to put too much pressure on your brakes because then you'll lock up your tire. I want to just go ahead and point something out too. The number 20 of Chris Hansen is still on pit road right now. Still
yes,
in
he
his pit
is.
stall. I'm not sure what's going on there. And also, Oscar Jensen has officially brought his car behind the wall.
I'm looking to see if there's any visible damage on the 20 car, and at least I can't see anything. I don't know if you can, but you're right. He spent the last 4 laps here on pit lane. It's looking like it's possibly fixing damage, but I'm not sure what damage that could be. I mean, the only driver I can see out there visibly that absolutely has damage is that 21 of Justin Carey. The whole hood is gone on that car after nosing into the tire barriers.
Well, there's also one more thing that could be happening, too. That's slightly more on the funnier side. It's very possible that Mother Nature called and he needed a pit stop.
Well, quite possibly. I mean, with the limited number of drivers that we got making the race here today, right now, guaranteed at least finishing in 12th place. And not really a whole lot of drivers breathing down his neck right now to knock him out of a playoff position. And maybe one of those racetracks where you can do that. As I noticed, we are going to start having lap traffic here for Caden Rush. You don't hear that said very often at Sonoma, but Greg Newsom filling in for Spire Motorsports here today in the 77. Right now, 11th place, about to go a lap down to the race leader.
Yep, he gets out of his way. Wise gets out of his way and lets him go by.
That will leave us
with close. They're getting really awfully close to these tire barriers.
Yeah, I noticed that going through turn 1. Really close. He could have high-fived that tire barrier going up the hill, but sometimes it's all about precision, and maybe that's where he's most comfortable. He knows the limits that he can go without making contact with that tire barrier. Whoa! And just as soon as I say that, saw the rear end slide out from underneath Caden Rush as he nearly spun it off of turn 5. Keeps it straight, however, keeps it going, but that would make me a little bit worried about those rear tires going into a slide like that. He's going to lose a lot of rear grip the longer this run goes on now.
Yeah, for the leader, he's really pushing it. He kind of got back to I forgot what I was going to say. He got back onto the racetrack and everything, but he got back on the gas, I think maybe slightly too early or too much, and the rear tires just spun.
A car that is on the charge right now is another driver out of the Hendrick stables, and that's James Love in the 88. He just made his way around Justin Carey for 9th, and just moments ago passed Taylor Butcher Benjamin for the 8th position. And I think we may have, nope, I thought we might have had another spin, but that was just Justin Carey getting down to about 25 miles per hour to make his way through turn 11. But James Love has been the highest mover here really since we went green. Now up to that 8th position. You can see just up ahead the 22 of Chad Gunnisman there as well. So pretty good run for all three of the Hendrick drivers that have taken today's green flag. Arthur right now in 3rd, Piscata in 4th, and James Love now up to 8th.
Yep. Drivers all in the top 10, guaranteed at least a top 15 finish at this point. But so no matter what happens, it's going to at least be a decent point stake compared to how many drivers show up on a normal basis. But I think Caden Rush is going to be the one who's going to pick up the most points today for sure.
Zach York finally makes his way around Joseph Piscota for the 4th position, and I noticed something that happened with the 9 that you talked about before we even came on the air. Coming off of some of these braking zones and getting back up into the throttle, the rear end, the rear tires start to spin on you, and I think that's exactly what happened to Piscota off of turn 11.
Yep, that's all it takes is just getting on the gas too early, and your rear tires are going to slide. It's going to be like you're trying to restart a race on old tires.
Right now, Caden Rush, last time by, he ran about 2 seconds slower than both Ty McWhirter and Vincent Arthur. I'm going to assume that the little episode he had over in turn 5 had something to do with that slower lap time. We'll see now after the slide here, his first official lap afterwards, what he's going to lay down in comparison to the 96 and the 24. Right now, though, he is about 11 and a half seconds ahead of the 96 of McWhirter and 15 seconds over Vincent Arthur at the line. This time, he runs a 140.537. So at this point in time, it doesn't look like that slide has hurt his lap times in any way, shape, or form. But just to point out just how abrasive this track is in terms of how much speed you lose the longer the run goes on. Fastest lap laid down by Caden Rush, 137.271. That last time by, he was over 3 seconds, not tenths, 3 seconds slower.
Yeah, and I hope Sonoma is going to be billing Caden for the amount of cones that he destroys going into turn 11.
Yeah, right. He has, I've lost count on just how many he has punted into the pit road entrance, and they bravely stand back up and get back to their positions and get knocked down again. But
they bravely stand up.
Like a game of chicken, I don't know. As now Justin Carey, who had that earlier episode in the S's, you see the hood gone on his number 21 Ford. He's about to go a lap down as well. And that would leave us with a total of 9 drivers on the lead lap as things run currently. Taylor Butcher Benjamin would then be the next driver that he would encounter, but currently he's running about 20 seconds ahead of this battle here with Caden Rush trying to put Carey a lap down. Easily makes the pass. 21 does not put up a fight.
Yep. No, I mean, he wouldn't, since being a lap car and everything. He's trying to get out of the way and run his own race.
17 laps about to be completed here at Sonoma. Still a long ways to go in this one. And you talked about the exhaustion that these drivers are going to feel at the end of this race, but when does the exhaustion start setting in? When do you start feeling sore? When do you start feeling that fatigue?
Oh, really early, because you're at this. These drivers are at this for 55 laps, and they're already 18 laps in, and they're already feeling it. I mean, these guys have got to go another, 30-ish laps? 35-ish laps, and it's already beginning to hurt. The amount of times you're going to have to be both on the brake, on the gas, shifting. They're already hurt.
Looking here at Caden Rush in the seat of that 00. I'm noticing right now just very smooth the way that he's handling the wheel. A lot of times you'll see drivers slipping and sliding around, having to counter steer, but right now he looks very comfortable with taking these corners. And of course, with having the lead he's got of over 13 seconds, it allows you to be able to maybe back off going into a corner and just take it at your own pace rather than having to attack every corner you meet.
Yeah. And that's what's going to happen. You don't want to push it too much. You're going to find yourself in the tire barriers. You just got to stay focused, and that's the hard thing to do, is to stay focused on the racetrack and just take it one lap at a time as they're approaching another lap car who's hitting pit road. That is our points leader heading into pit road.
Taylor Butcher Benjamin, the FedEx Toyota Camry out of Joe Gibbs Racing, hitting pit road here on lap 18. I assume this is a regularly scheduled stop. He's coming to pit road about roughly 6 laps after his teammate Chris Hansen was on pit road. Hansen actually still sitting on pit road in the 20 car as the 11 pulls into his pit stall. That's another thing that we maybe should document, is the fact that these tires are heated up and the track is slick, you got to execute getting into your pit box, because it can be very easy to get too hard on the brakes and overshoot it.
Yeah. And that's, like I said, it's brakes, and the tires are the most key things about road course racing.
Benjamin completes his pit stop. He'll fall back to the 11th position. That coming to pit road puts him now a lap down to leader Caden Rush as well.
Our leader just got a little sideways once again off of the carousel turn coming into turn 7. He got a little squirrely. So I definitely will see him backing off again probably.
That's another thing too, is if he makes a mistake, depending on where it is, he might have enough time to recover and keep the race lead. We saw him have the mistake earlier on. It dropped him back to 3rd, but he very quickly made the move back up to the race lead. The battle continues to be for 4th place, though. This has been the most fun battle to watch here for the last 10 laps or so between Zach York and Joseph Piscota. Piscota has spent most of this battle out in front in 4th place. York finally got around him in turn 11, but he has not been able to pull away from that 9 car. And I gotta think that in terms of making sure you don't go into a bit of a lull with nobody around you that could cause you to make a mistake, this is actually a good thing for the 19 and the 9. The fact that they're actually racing with someone, it keeps them basically mentally still into this race.
Yeah. You're just sitting there like, oh, I'm not running test laps. I'm actually running a race with people. So just got to keep an eye out for people around you. Keep your sanity sane. Make sure you got the crew chief telling you, hey, you're in a race. Don't forget that.
Now, I'm not certain, but I would assume that at the end of the regular season that there are bonus points given out to the regular season champion. With Taylor Butcher Benjamin hitting pit road, Chad Gunisman now moves up to the 7th spot, and Butcher Benjamin back in 11th. The gap between those two for the points lead, 45 points coming into this race. Obviously, Gunisman's not going to gain a whole lot of points, but he'll cut a little bit into that points lead if he can finish where he is and the 11 finish where he is at. And if there is those bonus points on the line here for the regular season, I mean, if you're the 22, you got to try and make little strides everywhere you can.
Yep, a little bit here, a little bit there. That's all it takes to close the gap in. I'm not sure, is it 1 point per position in this series? Okay, so then yeah, a little bit every now and then, but when you get that much of a gap, it almost becomes impossible as our leader takes out the cones yet again, going into turn 11. Add that to the tally mark. It just that bit of a gap is really, really hard, especially when you don't have a big field come in. Because then it's just, okay, you got to scrounge up whatever points you can and hope that nothing else happens.
The track may be blistering with the sun beating down on it, but Caden Rush is setting a blistering pace. He's about to reel in James Love, the 8th place car, and just not that far ahead is the 22 of Chad Gunisman that we saw. So, I don't know, we could have maybe as few as 5 cars on the lead lap here at Sonoma, which usually is not a thing that we normally say at a road course.
Yeah, I mean, interesting to see somebody win a race that's lapped pretty much everybody.
And we've had an exchange for second. Vincent Arthur has gotten around the 96 of Ty McWhirter. So McWhirter will fall back to 3rd. Arthur looking for what would be, I think, a tie for his best finish of the season, which, of course, was last week at Michigan. When he finished, oh no, I'm sorry. Nope, this actually would be his best finish of the season. He's had 2 third-place finishes, one at Charlotte and then one last week at Michigan. So right now, en route for his best finish of the year. And I have to chuckle, too, because we look here at the top three. Caden Rush, Vincent Arthur, Ty McWhirter. Combined, those three have less starts than Zach York running in fourth.
And that's a big-time thing right there, too.
That'll possibly going to be going on for the 10th position. Actually, I believe that battle just ended a moment ago. Taylor Butcher Benjamin working his way into the top 10 now. He's one lap down, but he just got around Greg Newsom. So now that closes up one position between himself and Chad Gunisman, who is currently in 7th. Last car on the lead lap. One driver that's had a very quiet day, and we haven't talked much about him, but currently solidly in that 6th position is Tom Drayling in the 42. We've seen him do a lot of subbing down in the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series, and he was a fill-in driver back at Mid-Ohio. Now, I know that obviously Sonoma and Mid-Ohio are two completely different road courses, but is there anything you can learn from one road course and apply it to another?
I mean, all road courses are unique and different. So, I mean, you can take a little bit, but not too much, because, like I said, with each being different, it's hard to, take over how your car is going to handle when it's a completely different course.
I believe the only two drivers that took the green to start this race that took part in that Mid-Ohio race were Tom Drayling, the 42, as well as Greg Newsom, of course, in the 77, who is a regular full-time driver over in that series.
And I'll tell
Lap 22 is what we're on, and we're closing in towards halfway here, Michael.
Yeah, we are, and I'll tell you how big the gap is. Caden Rush is coming into turn 11 right now, while Vincent Arthur is just in like the midpoint of the S's. So 20, that's 20 seconds for you here at Sonoma.
At 22 seconds now is the interval from Rush back to Arthur. And you kind of get the feeling, even with 34 laps to go, that Caden Rush, the only person right now that can take this win away from him is Caden Rush.
Yep. Well, one mistake, even with a big gap like that, one bad mistake that's more than just a spin, and bam, all of a sudden we have a new leader.
All right, so if you know that, and you're Vincent Arthur, currently running over 20 seconds behind the 00, how do you keep yourself mentally in the game? I mean, do you keep telling yourself, I still have a shot? But I mean, I would have to think when your crew chief or your spotter's telling you, hey, he's 20 seconds ahead of you, he's laying down lap times almost a second and a half faster than you. I just don't see how you can keep yourself optimistic if you're Vincent Arthur.
It's really hard. You just gotta, run. You gotta not really think about it. Just run your own race and hope that something happens that you can either catch him or just find a spot in line, just run and see if you can just get the best finish that you can.
Well, 6 drivers are now on the lead lap as the 22 of Chad Gunisman has just been put -1 to race leader Caden Rush. He started on the pole, fell to 3rd, but worked his way back up and has not looked back since then. He enjoys a 23-second gap back to 2nd place Vincent Arthur, and we're closing in potentially on the money stop of the day, closing in on halfway here at Sonoma. You won't miss a thing. We're going to go side by side, but we're going to take a quick commercial break here for the Soda Guy Cup Series. welcome you back here to Sonoma Raceway, race 16 of the Soda Guys Cup Series. Caden Rush setting a blistering pace here today, as right now he, along with 5 other drivers, actually make that only 4 other drivers are now on the lead lap. Tom Draling during that commercial break just went a lap down in the 42. Seth Cole with Michael Norman. We now have Sam Dyer up here in the booth as well, coming fresh off of a Flatout Racing Network broadcast that finished up just moments ago. And Sam, I mean, when you came in here, there was one thing that really jumped out to you of a certain driver on track.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Caden Rush having the most dominant car, still has it, but Zach York has been in 4th, and he's been slowly chipping away at Ty McWhorter, who's just been not running as fast as everyone else, and also York is running faster than Vincent Arthur. So those 2 guys are not safe and where they're at, because Zach York could be making a push for 3rd and possibly 2nd here at the end of this race.
Man, you know, I leave to get fries for 1 second, and next thing I know, there's somebody else in here taking my spot.
You know, another voice isn't bad for
Give
this
him
race.
some fries, maybe he'll let you talk. As right now, we're closing in on what we're expecting is going to be the only pit stop these drivers will have to make here. When Caden Rush completes the next lap, we should be officially at the halfway point of this race. We should be at lap 28 and then have a total of 27 to go, or 27 and 28 to go. All really depends on which lap these drivers decide to come to pit road, but I think right now, in terms of Caden Rush, he's of the strategy of running that tank completely out of fuel before he comes to pit lane.
Yeah, it's gonna be...
Zach York just spun it around!
And right in front of James Love, boy, turn 5 has been a problem here for these drivers. Turns 4 and 5, even leader Caden Rush had an issue over there. And all that time, Sam, that he had gained, he has lost with that spin.
It was 2.5 seconds difference, and now it's gone.
Yeah, he just went into that corner really, really hot, and the back end kicked out on him. I'm not sure if maybe that was some wheel hop or not, but he had all kinds of trouble in that corner.
I know that when Sam pointed it out to us, Michael, you were keeping your eye on that 19. I think you said over in turn 7, he had actually overdriven a corner. So I was kind of wondering if the pace he was setting was him really trying to aggressively attack these corners. And obviously that might have been the case there with that mistake. And so right there, Caden Rush even having the rear end swing out on him coming off of turn 2.
Yep, and that's just a product of road course racing. You know, there's hardly any grip with the elevation changes. Your tires aren't gripping the ground or the concrete, or actually the asphalt, all that well. So any slight wheel spin, and it's just, you're got no traction.
I believe Caden Rush right now, he would be looking for his 3rd top 5 finish of the season. His best finish so far in 3 starts are back-to-back 4th place runs. That was at Charlotte and Kansas. Sam, I mean, obviously, you know, we've seen Caden Rush up there in the mix just about every week. Are you surprised that it's a road course that he's kind of jumping out to the forefront at, that we haven't seen him get a win yet? A Speedway, and he just completely cut the S's.
I'm not sure if he got really loose or what, but he got real loose. I can see that right there. See him sliding, and he corrects it into the grass. I'm pretty sure that he's going to have to slow down a little bit to get to clear the black flag there. I'm not sure what the officials are going to say about that, because that would technically qualify as cutting the corner.
Yeah, Sam, you know more about iRacing, how it works, than we do. Is there anything in the iRacing system that gives you a penalty for cutting an area like that?
Yeah, no, if you cut the corner like so, as we saw Rush do, it gives you about anywhere from 1 second to probably that was more of a 7 to a 10-second yielding time, where you have to yield that time that you gained. And if you do not do so in the amount of time that's given, you will be given a black flag, and it looks like Caden Rush did so, yielding that time. But we did see pit stops going down with Vincent Arthur and Zach York coming in, as well as James Love and Justin Carey. But as you were saying before, I'm not really surprised to see Caden Rush be this dominant. I mean, he has been looking good at ovals, as Zach York fell off the track. He is stuck in the hill.
Oh, gracious.
Off in no man's land.
Oh, that's
And
even
he
worse,
might not
though.
be able to get that car turned back around as he's got it backed into a tire barrier. Oh, he might actually be able to get that thing back around, but he's on an uphill. Oh, no, that car's not going to be able to get going. Oh, what a costly mistake for Zach York.
He carried way too much speed into that corner.
It's just the one part of the track that if you overcorrect, it's gonna hurt you the most. And Zach York, with the chance to possibly get second place, now thrown out the window. We'll see if he's even able to finish in the top 5.
I
See
blame
what
Sam.
happened here.
I blame Sam for that. He started talking about him while we were in commercial.
I was giving
Now
him
look
too
what
much
happened.
pressure. That's all that it
giving-
was.
Some call it pressure. I call it motivation.
Others would
wow.
call it the caster's curse, but
Yes, they
Zach
would.
York, man, what was looking like could have been a decent day finishing up in second place. Now he is down to 10th place, still getting towed. It's going to be a very long tow, almost around 3 seconds just to tow himself to pit road.
Oh, I
And
think
then
gonna
it's
be
going to take even longer than that for him to get any repairs done of
might
him
be
hitting
like
the wall or
3
something.
It might be like 5 minutes for a tow, maybe more. Because that was, who knows? He was halfway around. He was halfway in the course through that one.
Yeah,
Correct
I'm
me
just
if I'm
guessing.
wrong. Think a tow is based on where you are on the track and the pacing that it would take to get around the track.
Yeah, it's the mixture of both. So that's why I'm guessing it's probably around 3 minutes or so just for him to get there. And that's not adding the time of any damage that he might have taken due to where he was stuck.
Because of that, now it's going to move Tom Drayling up into the top 5 in 5th, Chad Gunisman up to 6th, and Taylor Butcher Benjamin, who was one of the first lead lap cars to hit pit road, is now worked up to 7th place. So apparently that short pitting was a good call for the FedEx Toyota Camry, and he's trying to close up the gap between himself and second in the standings, Chad Gunisman. There's about 40-second separation there, but Gunisman has not been to pit road yet, so when the 22 eventually does come to pit lane, the 11 may very well pass it for position.
That's true as well. But you also got to remember too, a lot of these drivers are still 1 lap down, and the leaders have yet to come to pit road still.
The driver I'm looking at here, Sam alluded to it already, is Vincent Arthur. Has already been to pit road. And we are at the point now where these drivers would be able to make it the rest of the way. We've gotten past the halfway point. Arthur was on pit road 2 laps ago with 28 laps remaining, so he pitted right at the halfway point. He's still on the lead lap. He's 53 seconds back, but he'll obviously gain some time when Caden Rush eventually comes to pit lane. I almost wonder if this is the only strategy call the 24 could have made to try and take the win away from Caden Rush.
Yeah,
It's
looking at Arthur, he's made up already just based off that last lap. He's made up almost around 4 seconds. When he came into the pits, he was about 24 to 26 seconds back. So if he's able to continue running out there with this pace for the next 4 to 5 laps, it's going to help him a ton to get back onto Caden Rush's bumper.
Yeah, but the question is, when Caden Rush pits, he'll have the freshest tires out there. So even all that time that he made up, you could see Caden just take it all back as the race progresses.
One thing I've also noticed too is, yes, Caden Rush has made a couple of mistakes here and there, but nothing that has really qualified him to get any damage that I think you would have to have repaired on pit road. I was kind of wondering if maybe he'd lose time in that regard, but I think even, the abrasiveness we're seeing with the rumble strips jostling the car around and everything, don't think he's got any visible damage. So that would be an advantage, at least for him, not losing out on valuable time to the 24 of Vincent Arthur. And I have to say, I'm actually surprised, Sam. Vincent Arthur's been able to keep the car on track. We saw him use the infield grass back at Charlotte.
Yeah, that was one of the bolder ways to get around Charlotte when he was going through the grass. And I think he did that multiple times. And somehow that 24 machine was able to do well. They'll be getting by the 9 machine up to 3rd now. And he's already dropped off from his best lap time on this stint, almost a second. I think it might have been due to him passing a lap machine and just making some simple mistakes here and there.
Arthur has gotten around his teammate Joseph Piscotta, now up to 3rd. We saw the 22 of Chad Gunisman on pit road. He's still actually in his stall, so maybe getting some damage repaired on his Ford Mustang. And the question we have now is, when does Caden Rush come to pit road? Right now, the top 2 and 4 of the top 5 have yet to make that pit stop.
The question is when are they gonna come down pit road? We're 31 laps in. I'm not sure how many laps these drivers can run with fuel and their tires.
We know for certain they'll be able to make it the rest of the way if they've made it this far. Just a matter of when they decide to come to pit road. And I mean, this pit road is not one of the easiest either. These drivers out here getting anywhere up to about maybe 130 miles per hour down through the S's. And here comes Caden Rush to pit road. He's got to get it down to 35 miles per hour, one of the slower pit roads that we have here on the circuit.
45. It's 45.
Is it 45? I thought it was 35 here at Sonoma. Okay.
Nope, it is 45.
So here's the race leader, Caden Rush, down to the attention of his pit crew. We'll see if Ty McWhirter is going to decide to stay out or not. Obviously, at this point in time, the only 2 drivers that have led laps today are Rush and McWhirter. McWhirter obviously leading the couple of laps that Caden Rush had his mistake on. And then we'll have to wait and see where Vincent Arthur cycles around after all this, as the 96, last week's winner, is on pit road.
We'll see if Vincent Arthur not coming down pit road, but he's got to get through the turn. But Caden Rush is already out of pit road and back onto the racetrack.
Vincent Arthur already came in the pits, so he should be good to the end, but the gap between himself and Rush, that is what we're looking to see, and it is
38 seconds.
That is a huge gap to have between Rush and Arthur, and he tried valiantly. It's about 15 seconds now on our intervals, but just needed to be out there for a little bit longer on those tires to maybe gain a little bit more, but we're probably expecting to see Rush take all that time back.
It's interesting as I look at the schedule. We only have 3 road course stops here this season. Sonoma, Watkins Glen, and then we've got the Charlotte Roval during the playoffs. This was the first road course stop of the season here for these Soda Guy Cup Series drivers. We didn't really know who the favorites were coming into this. This is certainly going to give us a lot of data when we eventually get to Watkins Glen as to who the drivers to watch are going to be. And I think very easily Caden Rush is going to be top of that list.
Yeah, it's very, very possible. He's just absolutely dominating right now.
I mean, the main thing with these drivers, Sonoma is so different from Watkins Glen. Glen is a lot more of a flatter track, easier for these guys. So, yes, Caden Rush, we can circle in as our favorite for the Glen, but you cannot count out Vincent Arthur or Zach York due to the fact of how fast they have been trying to keep up with the Double Zero machine. And on an easier track, that difference in pace is going to shrink down. It's going to be a lot closer at the Glen.
Today in the Xfinity race, we saw Chase Briscoe battle from 6 laps down to finish 1 lap down up inside of the top 10. I almost wonder if they were going to see something similar like that here tonight for Zach York. He has gotten back out into the track after his issue over in turn 6. He's currently 1 lap down in the 8th position. He's still got 23 laps to work with. So where do you see him based on the speed he had? Where do you think he can maybe finish? Maybe 5th here tonight?
Looking at where people are at the moment, it's going to be difficult to say. I think 7th might be the best slot. Maybe 6th due to the fact that Tyler Butcher Benjamin still needs to come into the pits. So possibly 5th just because of the lap times. But for sure, 6th place, I could see Zach York getting there if he doesn't make any mistakes.
Just had our last driver that needed to come to pit road make his pit stop. That was the 9 of Joseph Piscota. Looks like he will cycle around into the 4th position. So now these drivers, they have what they have here for the final 23 going on to 22 laps when Rush gets to the start-finish line. Caden Rush the leader, Vincent Arthur second. The gap right now about 19.5 seconds between those two. Ty McWhirter in 3rd, Piscota in 4th, Tom Draling in 5th. Right now, 4 drivers on the lead lap, with Tom Draling the first car 1 lap down. Then Taylor Butcher, Benjamin, James Love, Zach York, Justin Carey, Chad Gunisman is your top 10. And of the drivers that are still running, Greg Newsom is in 11th. Chris Hansen still sitting there on pit road. Michael, I don't think it was a bathroom break because that's a 39-minute bathroom break there. It might just have been Chris Hansen maybe just spectating, watching what's going on here, feeling that 12th was the best he was going to finish, so just solidify himself in that finishing spot.
True, it's very possible. But, I'm sure something probably came up. But, yeah, so he'll settle for 12th place and probably just try to catch the show.
Ed Gunnisman, the 22, saw him running up as high as 7th place. He had an extended stay for damage repair on his pit stop. He has now fallen 2 laps down to the leader in 10th. And you see right there, Justin Carey now will be the first car 2 laps down, currently running in 9th as Caden Rush makes quick work of him over in turn 7.
Pass that was just made on track. James Love being able to get by Taylor Butcher Benjamin and getting that 88 machine up to 6th place. And now it's the 11 machine that's being hounded. Oh my goodness, these guys are getting loose.
Yes, they are. Love nearly gave away the position he just gained. And we were talking about this last week at Michigan, Sam, the fact that before that, Hendrick Motorsports was really struggling. Last week kind of looked like a turnaround for these guys, and right now they've got 3 of their cars up here inside of the top 6.
Yeah, I mean, it just sounded like they had a fluky week that time in Kansas, and now they're just doing well ever since, trying to finish in the top 10 the best they can, and getting up in the top 5 is their goal for all their machines.
Yep.
Joseph Piscota in the 9 car out there with the freshest tires right now. This is not for position. The pass there on Butcher Benjamin, and now the pass on his teammate James Love. That's traffic that he's trying to get by that are 1 lap behind him. Right now, he's trying to set his sights on Ty McWhirter for 3rd place. He's going to have to try and make up about 14 seconds in 21 laps.
Was looking back at Zach York, and he lost time because he overdrove corner number 2. He was about 8 seconds away from getting on to 7th place. Overshot turn 2, lost about 2 or 3 seconds. And now he's getting it all back up through the S's. Zach York is much faster than the cars in front of him. It's just those simple mistakes are making it so much longer for him to catch up to them.
Yeah, if he can keep himself consistent here, he's only got about 2 seconds, or I'm sorry, make that about 7 seconds between himself and his teammate Taylor Butcher Benjamin, and then another 2 seconds up to James Love. So he could very easily in the next 3 to 4 laps find himself in a battle for 6th place, which, based on the hardship he had there, that mess up over in turn 6 would be at least a decent comeback for the 19 car.
Looking at Zach York again, I'm just looking at the lap times. Even with that major mistake, he was still running 2 seconds faster than the 11 machine and was about 0.3 off of the 88, running slower than James Love. But back up front, I mean, on this stint, I mean, Rush is just running so much faster than everyone else. But I got to give it to that 96 machine running pretty, off by almost a second, but still in the 138s.
It's interesting about the last 2 laps. Caden Rush and Vincent Arthur almost ran identical lap times. The interval kind of remained somewhere in the 19-second vicinity, but that last lap, almost 2.5 seconds faster. Caden Rush over Vincent Arthur. The gap has now opened up over 22 seconds, which is kind of around where we were before that cycle of pit stops began.
Like I said, fresh tires for Caden. Any time lost, he was going to gain it back. I mean, he is the fastest car on the racetrack.
All right, so I'm going to throw out a scenario for both of you. Michael, I'm going to start with you. Now, we've seen Caden Rush slipping and sliding around even out there as the race leader. How much of a gap do you have to have between yourself and Vincent Arthur that if you make a mistake, you're going to have enough time to recover and still take this checkered flag if you have, let's say that incident, that spin that maybe you have is on the last lap?
Well, I mean, right now he seems to be in pretty good shape as long as it's just a 360. He's got to keep going and getting the distance bigger. You're looking probably, I want to say, around 25 seconds, give or take, because even then a quick spin throw it in gear and get back on the racetrack. You should be fine at that point in time.
Sam, do you concur?
Yeah, I concur for sure. Guys, I'm going to have to dip out of here and get ready for the next race, but it was nice being in here for the hot second that it was.
Absolutely. Just to let everybody know as well, I'll be joining Sam here later on tonight. Our broadcasting is not done. We're going to be hosting the FTF Grand National Series at the Tricky Triangle of Pocono Raceway. Green flag's going to be flying somewhere around 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for that. So, Sam, I will join you shortly. Thanks for joining us here.
Good luck, and hopefully Caden Rush doesn't make any mistakes. Good luck to that 00 car.
You just did the commentator's curse. Caden, if you watch this back, you'll know who to blame.
Hey, I'm out of here. You can't blame me.
Oh, my goodness. Well, less than 20 to go here, Michael. 19 laps will be 18 next time around. Now, obviously, it takes them a little under 2 minutes to complete these laps. It kind of seems like a long time here that we've been watching Caden Rush out in front, but when we start getting down to the closing stages of this race, I don't know what it is with the road courses, but it always seems then that the laps tick away quicker.
Yeah, it's just especially when he's just going. You can only do so much. Laps tick away quicker. We haven't had a caution. The last thing that Caden wants probably is a caution at this point. But I feel like if we end up getting one, that it more than likely will be everybody will be coming back down pit road again. But even then, I don't think Caden Rush has much to worry about unless he gets taken out.
I don't even see how we could possibly have a caution. We've had incidents here today, and a caution hasn't been thrown. With the way the field's so spread out, I don't see how there's any possibility of a yellow flag coming out.
No, not at all.
Looking here at the 24 of Vincent Arthur's second place, he's in the middle of what could possibly close up to be a battle between two.
Off the track. Carousel, he's
Benjamin.
off the track. He is off the track in the carousel. He was trying to let the leader go by and just kind of ran it off the racetrack as the leader's now approaching the 19 car. So that was a bit of a scary moment that could throw you off your game there.
Absolutely. Been the most consistent driver this season, even though he hasn't been to victory lane yet. Talking about Benjamin in that FedEx Toyota Camry. And now in the 8th position, first car 2 laps down, as you alluded to, Michael, just now getting lapped again by Caden Rush. Was going to mention before that happened, though, we've got a battle that could be brewing. It's for the 9th position between 2 cars that are 2 laps down, but I've said it before, and I will continue to keep beating this dead horse. A lot of times when you have a series that runs this type of system with the regular season races and then the playoff races, sometimes that one position that you either gain or lose in race 7, race 8, race 9 could be the difference maker between whether you're going to make the playoffs or not in the regular season finale. So, this battle right now may not seem like much between 2 cars, 2 laps down for 9th place. When we get to the regular season finale, it could be a very important battle.
Absolutely. Every point, every position counts.
For the moment, that gap that was down to about 3 seconds has opened up to 7 seconds between Goodisman and Carey, so that battle is gone. Next battle that is the closest on track right now is James Love in 6th. He's got about 4.5 seconds between himself and Zach York, who's been able to work his way after his issues over in turn 6. He's now up to the 7th spot. There you see that bright pink number 19 starting to close in on the Nationwide Camaro. That could very well be the highest that York's going to be able to move his way up, because then he would have to make up about a full minute and 20 seconds on Tom Drayling for 5th. So it looks like right here, this 6th position is the one thing that York's got to shoot for here in these final 17 laps.
I'll tell you, after getting caught out like that in the carousel, stuck out there, Zach York only being 1 lap down is really amazing.
And if you think about it, any other type of a track, he would probably be finding himself multiple laps down without a ghost of a shot of even finishing up inside of the top 10. The fortunate thing is that kind of an incident took place here at a road course. So not a whole lot of opportunity for drivers to pass him for position with the amount of time that he spent on pit lane. You guys were kind of speculating how long his tow was going to be on pit road. The official word was 2 minutes and 22 seconds before he was able to be released back out onto the racing surface.
Yep, so that's roughly almost, that's like a lap almost 2 right there. So after getting back out on the racetrack, he was lucky enough to stay just 1 lap down.
James Love looks in his rearview mirror, sees Zach York looming there, and we know that Zach York's not going to take any prisoners. He's fighting as hard as he can here to battle back from all the track position he lost, all the time he lost with that mistake in this very corner. James Love looks like he's going to maybe just move right over, give up that 6th position. That'll drop him back to 7th. And that's really the only battle that we had brewing here on the track, and it's over just as quickly as it happened. Just behind them is Caden Rush, now about to put these 2 drivers 2 laps down.
Yep, now the question is, with a big enough gap, would he just ride behind him till he gets to the right spot, or is he just going to try to pass him wherever he catches him?
I completely agree with you on that. I think that would be the smartest thing to do until either these drivers ahead of you make a mistake or until you get to a passing zone. Saw right there, James Love moved out of the way, so that made the choice easy for Caden Rush through the S's. Woo! 2 left sides off the racing surface there into the grass, though. Don't want to do that because the track's got grip, the grass does not. You've got one side of tires that have the grip, one side tires that don't. That car could loop around on you.
Yep, and like I said, all it takes is that little bit. 1 tire off in the dirt and your car will twist sideways 90 degrees like you're just driving on ice.
App right now as we look live, 29.5 seconds from Caden Rush back to Vincent Arthur. But you look at these drivers right now, your top 3, and of course they're coming into this race with a lot of momentum from last week's race at Michigan. Actually, the top 4 all can boast that. Ty McWhirter running 3rd, of course, was last week's winner. Vincent Arthur finished 3rd. He's running 2nd. Joseph Piscota right now running in 4th, and he finished in 4th last week. I believe Caden Rush was the only driver that really struggled last week at Michigan, finishing in the 20th position. And that was after starting the race from 6th. So he did not have a great Michigan race. So, a little bit of redemption here today for him. Not coming in with the best of momentum in the Irish Hills. Now dominating in Napa Valley. So here at Sonoma. As now Zach York going to go 2 laps down to Caden Rush.
And he passed him at just the right moment, just at the right passing zone to not really mess him up or anything else like that.
Everybody is so spread out at the moment. There are no battles whatsoever on track. So as we are closing in, we're closing in on 10 laps to go. So we're going to step aside and take another commercial break, and we'll be back here hopefully for the last 10 laps or so towards the finish. Right now, it is Caden Rush continuing to dominate here at Sonoma as we go side by side. you back here to race number 16 of the Soda Guys Cup Series. It's the first road course stop of the season here at Sonoma Raceway. It has been all Caden Rush out in front. He has dominated today's event. I believe he has led 43 of the 44 laps so far, looking to lead the final 11 and a half. He holds a 33-second gap between himself and Vincent Arthur. Third place right now, last week's winner from Michigan, Ty McWhirter. And the last car currently on the lead lap in fourth is the 9 of Joseph Piscota. Fifth place, the only car one lap down, is the 42 of Tom Drayling. We have 12 cars still listed in the race, 11 of them still running, and as mentioned, only 4 of them on the lead lap as Caden Rush starts to close in on 10 laps to go. Folks, Flatout Racing Network is looking for companies and individuals who would like to have their products and or services featured in various areas of our broadcast. You notice that we had side-by-side commercials here. We also are looking to have other sponsors, including our replays and special awards at the end of races. If you're interested, please visit our advertising page over on FlatoutRacingNetwork.com to see examples and pricing. Feel free to contact us via Facebook, Twitter, or the contact form at the bottom of the advertising page on our website.
And you see the 00 still just dominating away in this race.
Yeah, 11 laps to go here for Caden Rush. And I almost kind of get the feeling they could call the race right now and we would still have the exact finishing results that we're going to have 11 laps from now. But as you and I know, at road courses, you can never say never because there always seems to be something looming around the corner that we don't always expect. I mean, there have been some drivers here. We've seen Zach York. We probably would have had him easily in our top 5 based off of what we saw in the first 10 laps. Now he, after his struggles, has only been able to work his way up to 6. So we can't really rest on our laurels here and say that Rush, Arthur, McWhirter, Piscata, that they're out of the woods yet.
Yeah, it's really hard to call it now. It's not over to the Fat Lady Sings. And we still got plenty of time for something to happen to any one of these drivers for a position.
These drivers are all good to go on fuel. We know they can make it the rest of the way on what they've got in the tank based off of when they all made their one round of green flag pit stops. Right now, I think if you're thinking about anything, it's the tire game of who's been able to save their tires the best on this long run and whether or not someone might be able to make a late charge for a position on track.
Yep. And it's really hard to tell. Most of these drivers are really just all over the place.
Actually do have a battle that could be happening right in the vicinity of our race leader. He just put Justin Carey 3 laps down moments ago. You're going to see in just a moment the car he is catching is the 77 of Greg Newsom doing the fill-in driving once again in that 77 Spire Motorsports machine. He's currently 2 laps down, but he would go 3 laps down as soon as Caden Rush passes him, and he holds only about a 6.8 second gap between himself and Justin Carey for what would be a battle for a spot inside of the top 10.
Yep, it's very difficult.
Oh, Carey slideways and is going to go around out of turn 4. Saw that happening before he even got to the corner.
Yep, I can see that now. He probably nailed the gas too hard, got on the brakes pretty hard, and just spun it around through the corner and almost caught. I believe that's the 19, but he was able to get out of the way pretty quickly.
Yeah, Zach York right behind that was able to avoid as Carey gets it back going, but a chance now for getting inside the top 10 may have just gone up in smoke, as what was about a 6-second gap has now opened up to 15 seconds at 10 more laps to try and see if he can close that gap down.
After a spin like that, I really don't think that's going to happen. Man, the leader has hit at least one cone every lap, man. I can only imagine what that Bill is going to be up to by the end of this race.
I know. I'm actually surprised by that, too, because those cones are right on the yellow line, showing the commitment line to come to pit road. You talked about, even over here into turn 1 going up to turn 2, how close he gets to that tire barrier. I mean, he's right on the edge. Now, the reason that drivers run the corner that wide on entry is so that way they can drive it deeper into the corner and then widen it off the corner. Usually translates into speed, which is why Caden Rush has been able to turn these very fast, consistent laps. But you're also running the risk that if you get a little too close, you're going to have that car pretty badly damaged.
Yeah. And you know, that would be a real tough break.
Now I want to put you in the situation of Caden Rush right now. We're at less than 10 laps to go. You're enjoying an almost 40-second lead back to Vincent Arthur. As the laps tick down, does the anxiety to execute the corners kick in, or do you then start to get a sense of confidence with every lap that ticks away that you can really do no wrong and it helps you actually traverse the final few laps of this race?
Well, I mean, I'm going to go back to a question that you asked previously about how far ahead you have to be to make a mistake and still be in the lead. And right now, Caden is in that position where he has enough of a gap to where if he were to spin it or have a mistake, as long as he doesn't break the car, he should have he should still be the leader if he has a mistake.
You saw right there, he was going through turn 8. And Arthur was just then going through turn 6 over in the carousel. So a lot of racetrack that Vincent Arthur would have to traverse before getting up to Caden Rush should Rush make a mistake. But, you know, aside from the earlier incident that lost him the lead and maybe a couple of slides off the exit of the corner, Caden Rush has been picture perfect here today. Hit his marks pinpoint precise at Sonoma, and right now just trying to very carefully traverse his way through the final 8 circuits.
Yep. 8 circuits seems like a long time, and you're talking about a minute and a half to roughly 2 minutes per lap, and we're within 10 laps to go. So he's probably just really calm and just trying to focus on hitting his marks now. He can easily just kind of slow down and take these corners pretty quickly. But we'll see what happens in these final couple of laps.
Right now, Caden Rush and Vincent Arthur both are en route for their best career finishes of first and second. Ty McWhirter, we talked to him last week after he was in victory lane at Michigan, and he said now the goal is to just go out there, be consistent, get himself up there high enough in the points so that way his Michigan win will count towards a spot in the playoffs. Right now, mission successful as he's up there in the podium position. Joseph Piscotto, who I believe started at the same time as both Caden Rush and Vincent Arthur. He's also been very consistent. As a matter of fact, I believe he is the highest in the points between himself, Arthur, and Caden Rush in terms of just how consistent he's been at the start of his career.
Yeah, Joseph he's actually close to getting lapped. He's not that far ahead of the leader right now, who's just heading up the hill. You see them here. They'll be in about the same camera shot here shortly. But yeah, he's been running steadily in 4th place. I don't know if they'll even be able to catch 3rd place to get the podium finish, but just a good day in 4th place. That's a good amount of points.
No, we haven't talked about the playoffs a whole lot today, just based on the fact that a lot of the drivers that were in the playoff vicinity were not in tonight's race. The 3 closest really, were Tom Drayling, Chris Hansen, and Oscar Jensen. All 3 of them came into this race over 90-plus points ahead of that cut line. Drivers that were down near that cut line, like Aaron Lapham as well as Chris James, were not in tonight's event. Alex Link, though, if he had actually taken the green flag, might have been able to make some strides. He was 36 points back behind the cut line, but aside from that, like we said, really Vincent Arthur, Joseph Piscotto, and Caden Rush, depending on if they can close out the top 5 runs they're currently on, we may then, when we get to next week's race, start talking about them around the cutoff line, but really Sonoma is just starting to set us up maybe for some more contenders to get up into the playoff contention during the midway point of this regular season.
And with 6 laps to go as the leader crosses the line, he's right to the back of the 42 right now and closing in on Joseph Piscotto as well.
And looking to put Tom Draling a second lap down. Draling currently in 5th place. He's got some right front damage there on his Chip Ganassi Racing Chevrolet Camaro, so I don't know where that may have come from, but he has continued to soldier on inside the top 5. And to your point, Joseph Piscotto, if the 00 passes him here in these final 6 laps, we will have 3 drivers left on the lead lap to finish it out here today at Sonoma.
Yeah, and that's saying something.
Battle for 10th place, it's back on. It went away for a brief moment after we saw Justin Carey spin over in turn 6, but Carey has been able to reel Greg Newsom back in, so these two going to duke it out for the final top 10 position here with about 6.5 laps to go for them.
Yep, and now the question is, can he catch and pass him? He's caught him, but catching and passing are 2 different stories.
Right now, the last time by, Greg Newsom ran a 147.3. Carey ran a 143.2. So even though he doesn't have a hood, Justin Carey has been laying down much better lap times consistently the last couple of laps. And you can see right there, he seems to be a lot more confident going into these corners as well as far as attacking than Greg Newsom. I mean, Newsom right now, he's in a sub role. He is subbing here tonight for the 77 team and Ryan Strunk, who is currently 3rd in the point standings coming to this one. So just trying to keep the car in one piece is the goal for Newsom.
Yeah, and that's all it's going to take. As we're looking back up here, the 9 car is just right here getting lapped. I think he's going to fight the leader for it. Figured he would have let him go. No, the 9 car is just, he's going to fight for it.
Yeah, I know that obviously there's 45 seconds between Caden Rush and Vincent Arthur, but those are 2 teammates out of Hendrick Motorsports, and Rush says, "Nuh-uh, you're not holding me up."
Yeah, he tried, and just Rush gave him a bit of the boot right there and just said, "Excuse me, obviously I'm faster than you." And that's something that this 00 does not want to do, is he see how wide he goes in the carousel. That could have been disastrous.
Going to be side by side coming down here into turn 7. This is going to be interesting. Who's going to outbrake who? Caden Rush looks like he will clear Piscotto before they even get to that corner. But going back to the point of Piscotto blocking Caden Rush, I don't know if it was he was trying to keep himself on the lead lap or if he was maybe trying to hold up the 00 just a little bit to allow his teammate in the 24 to close in. But even so, I just don't see, even with the help of a teammate holding up the leader, the ability to close up 45 seconds.
No, not at all. He'd have to still be in front of him at this point.
And that could have very well cost Piscotto a finish inside of the top 4, or even the top 5, depending on if Caden Rush had punted him out of the way. I believe there's tire barriers down there over near the entrance of turn 4 as an issue for the 11. 11 looks like he may have a tire down.
It's very possible. Like I said, if you stand on the brakes too much and lock up your tire, you are risking blowing that tire out, and that could have been what happened to the 11.
And obviously my knowledge of tire racing very limited, but visibly it almost looks like that car is leaning downward on the right front of that splitter. That right front might be low, and that might be why Benjamin had an issue making it around the right-hand paperclip turn 11. You can see right there, the car kind of looks like it's skewed over to the left, so I think he may have a tire down. We'll see if he has to bring that car to pit road here on this lap.
Riding on board with him right now, he seems to be driving it like it's normal. Perhaps he was just being slow to let the cars go by.
Of course, too, you brought up earlier, this is an open setup league. These drivers are able to set the cars exact way that they want them, so maybe there's something in the setup of the car that's having it look like it's got that right front down. It may be just the way the car is positioned based off of the setup.
Yep, and like I said, he's running the track right now. He's running it extra slow, so it could be a little bit of an issue. But and also he was kind of driving it like it was normal. He's giving it throttle and shifting like normal, but he's just letting off extra early for these corners.
It'd be 3 laps to go here for Caden Rush. saw him get a little squirrely there off of turn 11. That could have been one of two things. Either one, getting back to the throttless. I believe you have to take turn 11 in first gear in order to make sure that you get some good exit speed getting up through the gears heading towards the start-finish line. The second thing, I almost wonder if he might have been purposely swinging side to side and make sure that he's still got some heat there and some grip in those rear tires.
That's also a good point. Could be like that too, but you never really know what's going on here at this road course.
Caden Rush, as we've mentioned, time and time again, has been almost flawless here today at Sonoma, and he's just got 2.5 more laps to go before he's finally going to capture his first checkered flag of the season. We saw last week with McWhirter going to victory lane how he now puts himself up into the conversation for a potential playoff spot. Caden Rush 1 week later looking to do the same. If we look ahead at the next race coming up here, Michael, at Chicagoland, I mean, you kind of look at all three of these races, they're in a way a bit of a wild card race. Michigan is all about manipulating the draft, sometimes fuel strategy. Here at Sonoma, it's all about execution and your ability to be able to run road courses. And next week, Chicagoland, I mean, the one thing that jumps out to me there is fuel.
Yep. Fuel's big time at Chicagoland. You know, it's all about strategy there, playing out the right strategy and hoping that cautions fall when you need them or don't need them, or don't when you don't need them. So it's going to be a very interesting next week at Chicagoland.
Right now, if we were looking for a battle here in the final 2 laps of this race, we'd have to go all the way back to 7th place. That's where Chad Gunisman runs 2 laps down. James Love in the 88, currently about 7 seconds behind. You'll see him in just a moment come into the camera shot. There he is, the Nationwide Chevrolet. That's the closest battle we've got on track right now. Everybody else is so spread out. I think that the next closest battle is between Justin Carey and Greg Newsom. That's 11 seconds difference. So there are no battles really going on here in the closing stages of this race. The field got spread out very early on, obviously with the fact that with road courses, you normally don't have full course yellows, so that even more spreads the field out. And right now we've got 3 drivers on the lead lap out of 11 cars that are still running, and Caden Rush is about to see the flag he's been waiting for, maybe for the last 30 or 40 laps, and that's that white flag.
Yep. Coming through the S's now, coming into turn number 10 right now. The right-hander. This is about when you're like, okay, I just got 1 more lap to go. Let's make it perfect. And that's what he's got to do.
That's, I'm certain, what his crew chief is telling him right now as well. Just give me 11 more perfect corners, and if you have to, crawl through them. So he's going to take the white flag here. 1 lap to go at Sonoma for Caden Rush. The gap right now with the white flag in the air, 47.5 seconds between himself and Vincent Arthur. If you're Caden Rush, I know that when you're a racer, you want to go out there, you want to, set a blistering pace, you want to attack every corner, but I mean, right now, he could slow his pace down and just crawl through these corners, making sure that thing's not going to spin out on him.
Yeah, and that's all it's going to take. All he needs to do right now. He doesn't need to get himself into any unnecessary trouble.
Down through the carousel here, which has certainly played its part in today's event. Several drivers have had issues from turn 4 over here to turn 7. As Rush heads through that right-hand turn 7, he'll head into the S's, down the long straightaway to turn 11, looking for the checkered flag. Just about 4 more corners left for the Starcom Racing Chevrolet.
Ooh, you almost turned that over going over those rumble strips.
Don't want to do that. Probably no way you're going to get back to the start-finish line if you do that.
I mean, not unless you're skilled enough to drive on 2 tires or maybe even your roof.
Out of turn 10, down to turn 11. Another caution cone bites the dust here as Caden Rush through the paperclip right-hander, off the corner, little wheel spin, doesn't matter. He'll come to the start finish line, and Caden Rush will take his first checkered flag of the season at Sonoma.
In a dominating fashion.
Absolutely. I believe he led 54 of the 55 laps here today. Would have led every single one had he not had that little hiccup back on lap 4. But Caden Rush is going to burn it down here today at Sonoma Raceway. I almost wonder just how much tire rubber he's still got on that race car, just based off the pace he's set here today.
Well, it ain't mattering now. Probably enough to still do his donuts, but man, that was crazy.
And there's Caden Rush giving us a little tour of the old Sonoma configuration, going from turn 4 down the straightaway to turn 7. It looks like he's going to maybe do some burnouts here for the fans located down in the turn 7 vicinity. So as Caden Rush burns it down here today at Sonoma Raceway, his first win of the season in what is only his 4th career start. Let's take a look at the full finishing results from today's race. 3 drivers finished on the lead lap. Caden Rush with the win. Vincent Arthur, his best career finish, 2nd place today. Ty McWhirter, back-to-back top 3 finishes after his victory last week at Michigan. He finished his last car on the podium here today at Sonoma. Joseph Piscota is going to finish in 4th with Tom Draling in 5th. Zach York, Chad Gunisman, James Love, Taylor Butcher, Benjamin, Justin Carey are your top 10. Rest of the drivers that finished this race is going to be Greg Newsom. I believe he was the last car to actually finish, as Chris Hansen finished on pit road. Oscar Jensen DNF'd from this race. So too did Larry Reed. And Rocky Boyd, Alex Link, neither of those drivers even got to take the green flag. As Caden Rush continues to burn it down, he just did some burnouts on the front straightaway. Let's see if we can get some words with some of our top 3 finishers. Let's kick things off here with our 3rd place finisher. And that is, of course, Gaunt Brothers Racing Toyota Camry driver Ty McWhirter. And Ty, 1 week after taking the checkered flag at Michigan, boy, you're on a bit of a momentum streak right now. A 3rd place run here today at Sonoma. Now, obviously up here in the booth with the field spread out and everything, it was very difficult to be able to, try and show battles and everything. But when you're there in the cockpit having to turn 55 laps at Sonoma, just how mentally draining is it?
That was a really tough race. I mean, that felt like a stint or two during an endurance race. Just never really had the handle on the car and just really kind of struggled all night. But, it's just one of those things.
It's the first road course race of the season here for you guys in the Cup Series. We do have Watkins Glen coming up here during the regular season. Of course, Charlotte Roval during the playoffs. Are there any notes you can take away from today's race to maybe apply to either one of those 2 road course races in the future?
Oh, absolutely. You got the low downforce package, so I was able to get a good evaluation on that tonight. And, 55 laps of that, and you'll be able to go to Watkins Glen, and you'll really have a lot of data you can look over and try to make your setup better.
Well, Ty, obviously a lot of momentum for you here tonight with back-to-back top 5 finishes, back-to-back top 3 finishes, actually. You got Chicagoland next week, which Michael and I were talking about is a fuel strategy type race, but hopefully you can carry that momentum into that 1.5-mile track. We're going to let you do some shout-outs now.
I'd like to thank Soda Guys, Veterans of Foreign Wars, Shorbs Racing Graphics, FSM Customs, and Abiding Love Memorial Urns.
That's Ty McWhirter. He brings it home 3rd place here tonight at Sonoma. As we said, wish you luck next week at Chicagoland.
All right, thanks, guys.
And let's see if we can get a word here with our 2nd place finisher, Vincent Arthur. Vincent was the fastest car in practice, ran up in the top 3 all day long, finishes it out in the 2nd position. And Vincent, we saw you be one of the drivers that were the first to come to pit road of the leaders, trying to get the advantage there with the fresher tires. But just looked like you didn't quite have the speed to be able to get up there with the 00. I have to ask you, you were one of those drivers that did not take a qualifying lap. Had you started a little bit further up in the field, do you think that you would have had something there to keep Caden Rush out of the top spot?
It's actually funny. I tried to put a qualifying lap in and just completely lost it in the first turn. So regardless, that wouldn't have counted. But I had a really good start to the race. Starting sixth, I would have liked to started in fourth and got up there a little quicker. But we had a really fast long run car, and I got to thank John Jones a lot for his work on the setups, and we spent a lot of time this week working on it, and I think it really showed. I think we could keep up with Caden on the short run, but just long run, he had a little more pace than we did.
Obviously, you've had a limited number of starts here, but you've had really great performances. You had fourth place finishes at both Charlotte and I believe it was at Michigan. And then, of course, bringing it home, second place here tonight at Sonoma. Looking forward to other races coming up like Chicagoland, Pocono, Indianapolis. Do you get the feeling a win's on the horizon?
Oh, I really hope so. Everybody's been working really hard to try to put fast setups on, and besides Kansas, we've been able to get the results, and we're inching up. We got a third, and we got a few thirds, and now we're second. So we only got one position to go, and I'm really hoping we can get there soon.
Well, obviously, a tremendous performance for you here today. You had to fight your way up there to get into that second position. I think you started this race from sixth. That's Vincent Arthur, who finishes in the second spot here today. And we're going to let you do some shout-outs now.
All right, thanks, guys. I got to thank the Soda guys, Veterans of Foreign Wars, Shorba Racing Graphics, FSM Customs, and Abiding Love Memorial Owns. Got to thank Exalta, Liberty, Chevy, Hertz, Hendrick, Engines, and Chassis. And then I got to thank Full Tilt Brewing Company. They'll be on the car next week, and hopefully we can bring home the checker flag for them.
Vincent Arthur brings it home with his best finish of the season, second place here today at Sonoma. Congratulations on a great run. We look forward to talking to you next week at Chicagoland.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
Of course, with Ty McWhirter having the win last week, this is helping him move up in the point standings. Vincent Arthur is going to move up in the point standings closer and closer to that cutoff line as far as the playoffs are concerned. Another guy that's going to do that is, of course, our race winner, Caden Rush, as he now has a trip to victory lane, which should put him up into the playoff conversation. And Caden, you just were the dominant car of the day out there, except for that one little issue you had over there in turn 7. But aside from that, how difficult is it when you're out there and the lead continues to increase, to tell yourself, okay, I've got this gap, I got to make sure I execute?
Yeah, the off-track excursion I had down in 6 and 7 was not very good on the start there. I wheel hopped from third to second, and that's the first time I've wheel hopped like that at all on the setup or anything. And I luckily didn't loop it the whole way around. I didn't really loop it at all, but I got it back going just in time, and I didn't lose that much time. But as for the just driving as you gain the gap and stuff, you're just trying to get to that first pit stop and see where you can get. You just want to get that gap to where they won't really catch up to you, get to your back bumper and hound you, and you just want to be able to pull away from that point.
55 laps here at Sonoma, all of them run under the green flag. Obviously, for you being out in front, that was the good thing. The bad thing is, though, you had to do 55 circuits, about less than 2 minutes each one of those laps. How mentally and physically exhausting is it?
It was it was pretty tough, because it just felt, after a certain point, it just felt like it was just muscle memory, and it was just almost robotic to a point. Luckily, I feel fine now. Didn't play any golf today, so my ankles aren't hurting after this one. But no, after a little bit, it just becomes robotic, and you kind of just have to use your muscle memory and stuff, and it just becomes almost ingrained.
Obviously, with this being the first road course stop of the season, we kind of were unsure of who to be able to watch here in this race. And I think that when we get to future road courses like Watkins Glen, Charlotte Roval, you're certainly going to be up at the top of our list. We're going to let you do some shout-outs now.
I'd just like to thank Soda Guys, Veterans of Foreign Wars, Sorbers Racing Graphics, FSM Customs, Abiding Love Memorials, Michael Carey Media, and everybody at Flying Arrows Racing for just helping put this all together. And we put together an awesome car. Honestly, I wasn't sure what we could get out of it, but everybody that helped, Grayson, Zach, Ben, everybody just at the team just did a fantastic job, and we put together a great car, and we came out and showed that we earned it tonight.
No doubt about that. Coast to coast, pole to win, led 54 of 55 laps. That's Caden Rush celebrating in victory lane. Congrats on a tremendous win. Go enjoy it.
Thank you.
That's going to conclude our coverage here tonight from Sonoma. Michael, we expected that we were probably going to go green flag the entirety of this race based off the track performance of road course races we've done in the past, but did we expect to see something as dominating as Caden Rush put on?
Not exactly. I mean, that was a heck of a performance, and I expected at least a little bit of battling up there, but, just that was crazy and really fun to watch.
Absolutely. So that concludes our coverage tonight from Sonoma for the Soda Guys Cup Series. Next week, we're going to be at Chicagoland Speedway, as they will go back to the 1.5 miles, and it should be a wild strategy race there. If you're not done with watching some racing here tonight, Flatout Racing Network has coverage of the FTF Grand National Series. They're going to be at Pocono, and that broadcast is actually going to be starting up in just a few moments. I'm going to be heading on over there, joining Sam Dyer in the commentator's booth. But Michael, 55 long laps here at Sonoma. I appreciate you joining me here for those tonight here in this one.
No problem. Thank you for having me. It's always fun doing this. You can catch me on Wednesday nights on FRN, broadcasting with Tyler Riggs for the Elite JoinAPS.com Cup Series, and it'll be fun. It's going to be fun. Thank you.
Absolutely. Great to have you. Thanks to everybody that tuned in tonight. Hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast, as Caden Rush is your winner tonight at Sonoma in the Soda Guys Cup Series. You've been watching another broadcast courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network. Have a great night, everybody.